This is Tony Shore, and we're going to be talking with Daniel Amos, Terry Taylor, and Jerry Chamberlain about the new project, Motorcycle, on Brainstorm, BAI. We're here in Wax Lips Studios, and we're here to talk about the new record, Motorcycle, on Brainstorm. This is kind of like a reunion, is it not? Jerry's back with the group.
Jerry, myself, Tim Chandler, he's been with us a long time, and Greg Flesh, and good old Ed McTaggart, guy we never really liked.
I never liked Ed.
Even as the interviewer, I'll say I never really liked Ed.
And Rob Watson lent his keyboard expertise to the whole all the shenanigans. So basically, pretty much a reunion for us, and thus the title of the record, Motorcycle. Coming back to the beginning, sort of our musical roots, which we never felt were country roots. Really, it was more musical diversity for us, and that I think Shotgun Angel, the second album, was probably a little more closer to where our hearts were as a band, where we wanted to take the music, because we'd always been excited by radio at the time that Motown was happening and the British invasion, and that diversity that you found on radio, and even within a Beatles record, or we were excited by bands, the American versions of the British invasion, Byrds and Beau Brummels and all those cats. So this record sort of returned to our roots, what influenced us in those early times.
This is one of the best, if not the best, record. It's like the consummate DA record, the consummate Daniel Amos record.
I think all of us had a sense, during the recording process, that we were onto something, and that's a great feeling when you're in the middle of recording tracks and feeling like something special is happening here. Coming together musically is always an adventure for us, just to see, well, here are these ideas, here's this great band. I know in writing for any project that DA does, I'm always excited about what the band's going to do with what I've written, and there's a great trust in that. They're going to make this song great. The chemistry's going to be there. We know it. We trust in it. And that's why it's a pleasurable experience. I've produced many records, and not every record's a pleasurable experience. There's a lot of tension and a lot of sort of fighting about ideas and that sort of thing, but we seem to be on the same wavelength. And Jerry and I worked closer on this record than we've worked on any record that we've been involved in the past. And so there was that chemistry added back into the situation, and then getting together with the guys just to rehearse these songs, they picked right up on it. And of course, Tim, to me, is one of the world's greatest bass players, and I think he hasn't done anything finer than what he did on this record. There's no doubt about that.
So Jerry, for you, what's it like, especially on this record? There's a lot of interesting meshing of guitar sounds going on between you and Greg. Did you work together a lot in the studio and rehearsal, combining parts?
Because our styles are different, yet they're very compatible. It made it really interesting, because we could play and not step on each other's toes. It worked real well.
Yeah, like Greg was saying, he sort of had this sense, this would be better with Jerry playing here, and he'd know when to sort of back off. I think it was the same. It was the same with Jerry. They just sort of knew when something would be right for the other. We do a song, we have a guitar duel. We could have gone for the real straight sort of big rock exchange, but we went for something a little more humorous, and it starts off pretty heavy, and sort of serious, and then it just sort of degenerates into this weird. I don't know what it is, but it was perfect, and it was between Jerry and Greg, and we just let the tape fly and whatever they played, and basically the rest of us stood behind it and just laughed, which encouraged them more to play these outrageous licks.
How about the getting back to the album and the project as a whole? Does it say something? Is it a concept record? Daniel Amos has been known to do grandiose things like the Alarma Chronicles, a 4-volume set. This album seems to have a theme. What's in the title Motorcycle? What is Motorcycle?
Well, I think it's sort of on two levels, really. One is there was this reunion of sorts and coming back to some of our original concepts and musical ideas. There's commentary within the songs about coming back together again. Motorcycles is very autobiographical, and it says things like we've run some red lights. In other words, we've made some mistakes, but we were still honest even when no one was looking. And for me, that was a real personal expression of the relationship that we have within the band, which is there's an intense honesty that a lot of us as Christians yearn for within our own church structures, where we can be ourselves, however bad or good that is at any given moment, where we can be real and transparent. I think that's one thing that we enjoy together. That's part of our chemistry, is that we can sort of let our hair down, and it opens up opportunities to share with one another our deepest spiritual problems or needs or whatever. And I've many times found myself receiving ministry and healing in a very low key, where you wouldn't tag it, give it that high-sounding title of ministry or whatever. But I've received healing and I've received ministry from these guys because I have that kind of relationship with them. So Motorcycles, really musically, it's reflective of what the band did somewhat in the early days, even with Horrendous Disc. But then lyrically also, it's for me, I've become older, and it's sort of my overview of what life is like now. And there's a certain peacefulness to this record. There's a certain sense that we all have in growing, in getting older and still being together and sharing of life and death as we get closer to death as well. There's a certain peace in terms of our lifestyles and the things that we appreciate. My lyrical approach was to, in most of these songs, you'll hear references to going through everyday life, which can be somewhat mundane, but opening up a little bit and seeing beyond the mundane and seeing the spiritual aspects and where God has been good and gracious to us and continues to love us and that sort of thing. And I think it's like Hole in the World, which is one of the tunes, is this sort of opening up a hole through which we can see out of the common things of life into the realm of God's mystery, holiness, love, and all of these things which affect us in our life. So it really has there's a bit of that dark humor, which will always be sort of swirling around us, I guess. But there's a certain celebration to this record. The first song starts off, Banquet at the World's End, which is from the earthly plane, seeing what the future will be like when God calls all the sort of disenfranchised, the poor, the lame, the blind, to that banquet. And it says the beautiful people they're going to stay away, because it says hell feels like home now, where all the losers of the world be coming to this great banquet. So it really sets the tone for the record, which is a celebration of life, and it's even a celebration of death, as we talk about to our dear dead dears. If there's any place to be, then you must be there, and this sort of thing. So there's all these sorts of references to the here and now, but life beyond as well.
Let's touch on a couple of other songs from the record Motorcycle. Buffalo Hills and Noel.
You want me just to touch on them? I wrote Buffalo Hills. That's where my son plays some of his baseball games. And writing songs about my children, I've sort of refrained from doing it, because most songs I hear about people's kids are overly sweet and sentimental and sort of mean more to the person that has written them than it has, in terms of a universal appeal. And I wanted to write something. I had tried writing songs about the kids in the past, but I never felt very good about them. And for some reason, and it's sort of a mystery when you write a tune, why something works and why something doesn't. But it just seemed the right time to write something about my relationship with my children and what they mean to me. And the song Buffalo Hills is a song about baseball, of all things. But I didn't want to write a song that says my son plays baseball and I really dig it when he gets a hit. I wanted to relate something spiritual in going to see him play, something about innocence and something in back of this sort of this game that's being played. Some of the lines are: I float on a cloud between the boy and the ball. The long-haired mermaids lie on rocks by the ocean. Around the diamond grass, my blue-eyed dream comes home at last to the Buffalo Hills. Noel, the setting for the song is sort of a fairy tale, and it says, and it's a desire to want for your child peace in this life and protection from harm, from all the dark that's in the world. And the bridge of the song says, I've prayed her into a dream where it all turns out quite well. The church bells ring Noel, Noel. I have her living in a little greenhouse and driving an electric car, so environmentally she's very aware in this song. She sings in perfect pitch and these sorts of things, but it's a fairy tale, and yet she's just at that age where where the desire, the deepest part of in the deepest part of my heart, I want to see her in that fairy tale. I want to see her living that fairy tale life. And really the best thing we can do as parents is to pray that God will watch over them and set his angels round about them, and that's the song is sort of an expression of that.
Let's touch on the technical aspect of Motorcycle.
The key is, creativity, and I think what's basic to this record is that the band recorded as a unit. We recorded this record live, basically. But then we had fun with a lot of different instruments. We didn't want to fill this record up with synthesizers. I think the past few DA records have really gotten away from a synthesized sound. I want to capture more of that live energy. So when we talked with Rob about doing keyboards on this record, we said, look, let's confine keyboards to B3 Hammond organ and the Mellotron, which is an instrument that you'll hear on Strawberry Fields and some of the Moody Blues stuff. And it was like the earliest sampling keyboard, and it's we rented it, and it's this strange-looking little box that has tapes that go across this tape head, and it was like invented by the BBC, and this thing's painted like with house paint or something. There's just nothing quite like it, and we want to stick to those sorts of instruments. their production values, and sonically, we've moved into the 90s. It's not something you're going to listen to and go, oh, it's dated or something. We've used the best of the past and brought it into the present. While this record has a lot of our influences, there is a uniqueness. I don't think you're going to hear much like it anywhere. We have a song on it called Traps and Snares, which is sort of indescribable. I don't even really know what it is, but there's a certain psychedelia element to it, and it's just probably one of the strangest things we've ever recorded. We've talked often about doing a collection of the weirdest songs that we've ever recorded. Autographs for the Sick would be one of them, and some of those I'm sure Traps and Snares would make that list. Beware of traps and snares. Almost any musical expression is sort of an act of courage. Whenever you write a song, you show it to someone else. It's an act of courage because it's your life, it's who you are, and you're laying it out on the table, and you're either going to be rejected or accepted. So I think for me, having the kind of bond that we had as a band and the kind of fellowship that we had, we gave one another the courage to take the next step and kind of step out. We didn't feel alone, but because we were at least able to encourage ourselves and had enough encouragement along the way from those in the body of Christ that understood what we were trying to do and understood the kind of precarious situation that we were in, the controversy, but still stood behind us and prayed for us and all these things. And because of our families and all of that, we had the courage to go on and follow our dreams, our vision. I mean, this was a vision from the beginning of the band, to do whatever we wanted to do musically. And people would confuse that with some sort of darkness of the soul, or some being off spiritually. We were trying to take the old story, the story of the ages, Christ crucified and resurrected, and say it in ways that were new and fresh. And it's like reading a myth or a fable. It has a certain center of truth to it that comes across in a new and fresh way that pierces the heart and gets inside, and suddenly the intellect lights up, the head lights up, the heart lights up, and there's a new response to God. And that's been our approach to lyric writing and musical creativity. There's a spark of God here, and we're not going to do and say the same things we've always said, but it's still the basic belief and faith system that we believed in from the beginning, that simple faith and trust in Christ and expressing it in new and different ways. And this has elicited a response from people out there. I used to get this pressure: are you a minister, or are you a musician? I'm a musician. But the response, the idea of where does Daniel Amos fit into ministry, is answered almost daily by the kinds of letters that we get from people that say, you've touched me in a spot where I've never been touched before. God's touched them in a spot. We're vessels for that. And the kinds of letters I get from people that are everything from terminally ill to having people that are dying in their family or whatever, people that are going through dark times, these are the kind of letters I get. And when we were supposedly ministers, when we had that minister tag, we never got letters like that. We got sort of these superficial kinds of things, and people were trying to be encouraging. But now that we've deepened our life, deepened our walk in Christ, and deepened what we're trying to say philosophically, now the response is from our letters from people that are saying the very core, expressing the very core of their fears, their doubts, whatever it may be, their resentment towards God, or whatever it may be. They feel enough of a connection with this band and what it does to be able to share, although they've never met us, they don't know anything beyond what we've said in our records. They feel that they can be real with us. And that's the ministry of this band, and it's needed. We were like one of the first bands to actually rent a hotel room at a Motel 6 so we could get some sleep. We'd gone out on these tours where we would stay in people's houses, and 3% or 4% of those houses were great places to stay with great people that understood you were tired and you weren't at your best all the time, and they went out of their way to make you feel comfortable. But those are the days where you loaded up your own van, you drove hours, you got to the gig, you unloaded your own equipment, you played, you ministered to the people afterwards, you loaded your van back up, and you drove over to some person's house and had a spaghetti dinner at 12 o'clock at night and taught their son how to play bass. By the third gig, our voices would be shot. We'd be sleeping in people's houses where they had a bunk bed for the kids, and their kids were sick, but they had their kids stay on the couch, and we were in their bunk beds. And so we were not only a burden on them, and a lot of them even resented that we were there. Many of them did. It was sort of out of obligation because they had to show that they were servants and this sort of thing. And here we were losing our voices and getting colds and being sickly and not eating well and not sleeping well. And by the third or fourth gig, we were shot. So I'll never forget, it was a major event the first time that we decided on our own, out of our own money, to get a Motel 6. And then we started hearing, it's all gone to their heads. They're not serving Jesus anymore. They're not being servants. So that was a big thing. But we were like one of the first bands that was really a band that knew we had certain needs. And so we were sort of, now it's an accepted thing. You get a hotel usually, and there's no big deal. But at the time, we were a little ahead of our time in that area of comfort zone where we knew we had to have longevity to get through this tour.
Looking ahead to the future, what do you see as the future of Daniel Amos after almost 20 years with a new album like Motorcycle?
I think it's optimistic. I'm really hopeful for the band and for the record because I think it sounds good. We're excited about it, and we feel really good about the band.
What sort of amazes me is that there's still an incredible amount of energy and creativity, that I don't think has ever wavered, and that's very exciting for a band that's been around as long as we have. And we're willing to take chances and make mistakes, and that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of recording. It's an immensely satisfying experience. I think for me, and probably for most everybody in the band, this frustration that we've had in the past about, well, we'd like it. We'd like to be able to cross over and see that this music goes out. There's a degree of it in that any artist wants as many people as possible to appreciate what they've done. When we recorded Horrendous Disc, part of the time we spent in the studio, we were in our pajamas. So to sort of celebrate our 10th record, to sort of bring it all full circle, I wore my pajamas one night to this, to a mix of Motorcycle. We're going to keep recording as long as we enjoy it, and for me it's never diminished. The joy increases with each record. It's really like old friends getting together to do something that we just enjoy beyond words.